Women's Day mean for us that we really and truly have been empowering women all over the world for the past 50 years. It is how you feel about yourself, how you act towards others, and it is really and truly making the world a better place.
Good morning, everybody. Today we have with us Frederic Widell of Oriflame, and he's going to talk about women empowerment and the contribution of Oriflame. Welcome to Outlook Speakout.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Same here. So, Mr. Widell, what is Oriflame's contribution in the field of women empowerment?
Well, I think that Oriflame, when we started some 54 years ago, one of the major concepts of Oriflame was to provide an opportunity for anybody to become an entrepreneur, to work with our cosmetics and wellness products and become an entrepreneur. And of course, since beauty is such an integral part of Oriflame, we have all over the world attracted predominantly women. There are of course men who see this as a business, but predominantly we have women. And those women are, through the Oriflame opportunity, empowered. And what happens to a woman when she starts getting her own income or financial means? Well, she becomes less dependent and therefore more empowered. So I think in the concept of Oriflame, women empowerment has been there for over 50 years. And together with Oriflame, last year, I don't think you can believe, but last year we did 15,000 trainings, right? Trainings on personal development, professional development, public speaking, sales trainings, etc., etc. And that, of course, also develops people both personally and professionally. So I think in our concept, women empowerment is at the core.
And you are from Sweden, so if you compare women empowerment there, or is it a very new concept in India? What is it like? Is women empowerment spoken about in Sweden, or is it only? Absolutely,
I think, and if we look at perhaps differences between Scandinavia as a region and other parts of the world, the women empowerment movement have come much further away, and we are much more equal at this point in time. However, if you ask a woman from Sweden, I am sure she will say no, it is not 100% equality yet. And that is, of course, troubling. So I think, but I think if you compare Sweden to India, for instance, we have more or less the same men as women in the workforce. Here is probably 3 or even 4 men to each woman. So there are differences, and that's why I think we, as a private entity, really and truly have to take our responsibility. I think all, private sector, in fact, should take a responsibility towards women empowerment. And I am also very happy to say that on my commercial team here in India, we have 50% women.
And in your India office, what is the ratio of women roughly?
I would say slightly skewed to the advantage of women, around 60% women and 40% men in the total company here in India.
And can you narrate some stories when you started off with Oriflame? But how was it like empowering the women? What was the campaign you conducted to make it a more woman-friendly organization?
I mean, I think that there are so many examples of people who have joined and had little means perhaps, and then developed a business and transformed from perhaps a shyer former self to a fully blossomed entrepreneur.
What is the policy of their entrance to the organizations? As you said, everybody's free to enter your organization.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there are only 2 legal requirements. One, you have to be at the age of 18 or older. And the second one is you need to be a human being.
And can you narrate some incident where you felt that women in your organization felt empowered and economic independence came through from the lower strata? I
will share with you one of my favorite stories from Mumbai, from many, many years ago, in fact. There was a lady who was a day laborer. She lived in Thane, and she used to take the train from Thane into central Bombay. And she had 5 rupees in her pocket every morning. That's it, for the train. And then she was a day laborer, she got money, took the same train back home. And on that train, she met an Oriflame brand partner. And she decided to sign up and join Oriflame, as it is free of charge to join us. And she developed into a fantastic entrepreneur who traveled all over the world together with us. She's now 70 plus, and obviously for reasons that are very reasonable, she's working less now. But there are so many of these type of examples, and also that is one side of the story. We also have a very young lady, a 22-year-old student from Kohima, who is making as much as my sales director here every month. So there are stories all over, and that's why I'm so proud of working for Oriflame.
And what are the latest projects and campaigns you're taking up to promote Oriflame's Women Empowerment Scheme, which is a very important part of your...
Yes, it is. And I mean, we have been, for us, since 2006, we've been involved with Depalja, which is a girl-child project, or it's actually schools for lesser fortunate girl children. And we have helped 8,000 girl children go through the entirety from first class to high school. And this we have done now for the past 15 years, and we will continue to do this. This makes a huge difference for us. And at the same time, on this International Women's Day, we will also have a campaign called #BeTheBossBabe. Okay? Be the Boss Babe. And around this, we will continue to promote both women empowerment and entrepreneurship. And I think they kind of go hand in hand. For me as a man, I want to tell all men out there, you too have to do your bit to women empowerment. This is not a woman's issue. This is a societal issue.
How gender inclusive is your organization?
I would say it's very gender inclusive. And I think it comes, as I mentioned briefly before, from the fact that we predominantly sell products for women. Of course, we have a male segment and EDTs, etc., but at the end of the day, as a woman, somehow, I guess still, women care a little bit more than men about how they look. I think it's changing, and we see men being more and more metrosexual and looking after themselves, which I think in general is very good. But at the moment, I think women is still a little bit ahead of us.
And for the metrosexual men, what are the products that you all have, which is...
Oh, we have everything from skincare. We have a full daily routine for men. It's, men also have skin, just as important as for women. To have a cleanser, a toner, a day cream, night cream, and perhaps an eye cream for your wrinkles. And that range we launched last year, and it's been selling super well. We have fragrances, EDTs, body washes, etc. for men. So we have a vast portfolio here in India.
And how empowered are the men in your organization? Because women empowerment we talk about, but we need to empower our men too. How empowered are the men in your organization?
That's a very good question. And I think when it comes to empowerment of men, education is the most important tool. And it has to start at early ages. Because perceptions are built during your early years, right?
And the theme, as you say, we choose to challenge. The men folk, are they really challenging the women in your organization? The women folk, rather, are really challenging the men folk in your organization?
I think they are. I would like to think that they are. Now, the question is, are the men challenging themselves to stand up for women empowerment? Now, that's a question I think is perhaps something that we should all ask ourselves as men.
And the men in your organization, do you all go through some etiquette practice or something like that so that none of them do not misbehave?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Do you have some workshops or something?
We have workshops, and we have also yearly pledges that you have to do, every employee, which has to do with, sexual harassment, corruption, legalities, etc., that every employee has to go through and pledge that he, in this case, is adhering to all Oriflame policies of gender equality.
Mr. Frederic, every day is a Women's Day. So why do we need to celebrate Women's Day on that specific day, 8th of March?
I think we need to celebrate Women's Day until such time there is 100% equality in the world. And I don't see that happening in the next 50 years, but I do see that happening afterwards. And 50 years on the scope of humanity is a very small period, of course. And I think I am steadfast in celebrating this day until such time.
Thank you so much for the show. It was great talking to you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Welcome to the Outlook Speakout special on Women's Day. I am your moderator, Lachmi Debroy. We have a very well-established women panelists from different walks of life lined up for us. The topic of the webinar is Insecurity and Inclusion, going beyond token representation. Now I go over to introducing the panelists, our most esteemed panelist, Reena Raju, who is an athlete and a two-time heart recipient. Reena lives and gives with her heart donors beating inside her. She is the first Indian to survive repeat heart transplant. She's the first team manager of India to prepare 14 athletes to represent India at the 2019 World Transplant Games. Dr. Alka Pandey is a consultant art advisor and curator. She is a receiver of several national and international awards. We have Suparna Chadda, curator of Sabera and Women Endangered, which is an initiative on gender sensitivity. We also have with us Shikha Sharma, a producer who has co-produced successful films like Toilet, Ek Prem Katha, Shakuntala Devi, Noor, and many more. Welcome to Outlook Challenge.
Thank you, Lakshmi.
So we go ahead with the questions, and it's a pleasure having all of you for this event of ours. And so, Reena, I will start with you. What is it? What does gender inclusivity mean to you in your field?
It means to me equal opportunities, access, and support in my field of organ donation and transplantation, and a decade of being in this cause. I have realized, and I've come across men having relatively more access to family support, financial support, and medical care compared to women at times. An organ transplant, for example, can cost anywhere from 15 lakhs to 35 to 40 lakhs, depending upon the choice of hospital. Post the surgery, it costs around 8,000 to 15,000 per month on these anti-rejection medicines. This is to prevent the organ from being rejected. And there are so many out there who cannot afford these month-on-month medicines, and no medicines, there's no life. So I feel we are already getting there, and there needs to be a mindset change. For me, it's about equal opportunities, access, and support in every form.
And Shikha, what does it mean to you, inclusivity in your profession of entertainment? How is it like?
So I would agree with Reena. It's no different from us. It's the providing equal access of opportunity and resources for people who might otherwise be excluded or marginalized. But I think in our industry, things are changing at a very high speed. And I think that, women are given more opportunities. There are other people from caste and religion, and I think we are getting lesser and lesser biased in the industry that we are in.
Shikha Sharma, how difficult was it for you in the industry? What extra mile did you have to go for it?
So, I would like to say, honestly, I was a bit blessed, and I didn't have too many hurdles. Sure, there were hurdles because it's the career, but it's not because I'm a woman. Even now, like the kind of the films that we back, the kind of people that we are working with, all the head of departments in my films, if you see, are mostly women. There are DOPs, which are women. There are people on the technical sides, like, editors, like sound recordists. There are costume designers. There are, PDs, production designers. So many of them are women. And, I think, and I'm very proud to say that as a company, Abundantia, we support, and we have, in fact, in my team, we have women who are spearheading the creative department. So I think there's an immense opportunity, and I don't think, I mean, there are definitely challenges, and I had a lot of them, but I just feel like it wasn't because I was a woman.
And Alkaji, over to you. How is your profession like going beyond inclusivity? What does gender inclusivity actually means in your profession? How open is your?
Well, in my profession, I'm glad you've asked very specifically, Lakshmi. I wear many hats as a scholar and an academic. You know, when you are teaching, women are supposed to teach. So there is a little bit of, a little bit of patriarchy which asserts itself. I just want to say one thing, that in a country like ours, you can't get beyond gender and caste, class ever. Of course, things are changing a lot today. They're changing enormously. And what I would like to say is that in the arts, particularly in the arts, women do seem to have an upper edge. And I'm not talking of the performing arts or film, I'm talking only of the visual arts, because I come from the practice of visual arts. I have been teaching in the university. I am working as a curator. I work as a writer. There is a lot of gender inclusivity, for sure, but it's very nuanced. I will say that the world is changing very rapidly. And what is of concern to me in this third wave of feminism is that because for generations, women have had a little more of a, not little, but say 20 years ago, much more of a struggle, there is a kind of aggression which has come in from the women, which as a woman, I am very nervous of. I find that with my younger colleagues, I find that with younger people coming to work for me, particularly metropolitan, urban, well-educated women who've studied abroad and have had great education in India. I am nervous of that very aggressive kind of attitude they come with. Maybe it's a reaction. So I'm talking now of age, the kind of age that I am in, the kind of experience that I've had over the many years. I think it is very, very important for us to also contextualize ourselves. And when you are asking about gender inclusivity in my profession, the arts is always looked upon. You see, women were always meant to sew, embroider, go to a finishing school, be good wives, paint and be Sunday painters. So from that point of view, there is not too much of a problem in the visual arts. Women can paint, they are equally well recognized. But at another level, women have to become mothers. They take a little bit of a backseat, even if you see with painters, because they have their home, they have their house, they have the children to take care of. So what I'm trying to say is there the gender inclusivity has to come in with the support of the men. So today, everything is a partnership. And the inclusivity also is a partnership. And I think women again play a very important role, because women as mothers of sons have to sensitize them to the gender. So it's very, very complicated today in urban India. I'm talking of urban India, because that's the area I'm familiar with. That's the area I work in. It's very complicated. It's very nuanced. And I think the canvas is of inclusivity, definitely. The mindset has changed. But because we are in such a critical area of transition, particularly in developing countries like us, and in India, we have another complication of caste and class as well. So there are various complications, but I am talking from a position of great positivity. And I am saying that I'm seeing the world change. While women make the change, in the case of women empowerment, I think men are making a bigger effort, because they have to tone down their masculinity. They have to tone down their machismo. And many men are doing that because they have also realized, and they are becoming pragmatic, that if they have a wife who's bringing in money, who's bringing in some kind of social recognition, they have to support the woman. So it again depends on the mindset of both men and women. And again, here I will say it's also a little tragic that my generation of women are still making a difference between girls and boys if they have one of each gender. And I will say definitely women are more vulnerable in every way in India in particular, because we don't have that personal space and things which is so much there in America. We don't have the French thing of complete equality where I think the balance is on the other side. My research, in fact, had been on a very interesting image of Shiva called Ardha Nari Ishwara, the Lord who is half woman. And my thesis, which I turned it into a cultural book, is all about gender balance. And if you see in our ecosystem also, it is all about balance. So the minute there is balance between the mindset of both men and women, and I will definitely say women today who are becoming so aggressive that they are losing their beauty of what it is to be feminine, because the feminine energy is definitely and scientifically different. Women can multitask, which I see even the best of men cannot. They are not trained that way. So it's a lot to do about nature and nurture. And I think we are at a very, very critical stage. But as I said, I'm very positive, and I see all around a huge sensitivity which is coming in from enlightened men who are sons of enlightened mothers. So you see there, the mother, son. So everything depends on a woman. But this aggression today, that is something which makes me very sad, which I see from urban metropolitan women.
So, Pana, your take on this inclusivity in your profession?
Thank you, Lachmi. I'm very honored to be in this very, very elite set of women who are very empowered in their own fields and have challenged mindsets in their own particular domains. So I'm grateful for that. As far as I'm concerned, given that I've had an experience with the media and marketing domain for the past 2 decades, and the last particular decade, I have been curating media and marketing related events. So specifically, my challenge is always to have an equal representation of all the genders, men, women, and the third gender. And I'll quote an example to you. Of late, it surprises me to no end that a very popular magazine, I'm not going to name them, they curated a set of awards for the motor industry. And from people on the jury to people on the dais speaking about the industry, etc., I could see only very well achieved and very well arrived men. And there was no representation whatsoever of women. And when I spoke about this, there were many women that came forward. I know of women in the motor sport industry, in the racing industry, in so many ways that they're involved. So really, we all need to make conscious decisions in whatever field that we are in. And also for Sabera, which I have been curating for the past 4 years, Sabera essentially highlights good. It's as simple as that. And that good can be from an individual perspective, a not-for-profit, or from a corporation perspective. And to anchor that, I consciously always invite somebody who would never, ever have had the chance or an opportunity to be there amidst, the who's who of the media, marketing, and general society or policymakers at large. My first event was anchored by a daughter of a gardener, a Mali. And she was a beneficiary of a school in Uttarakhand that nurtures a lot of young children, sons and daughters of the soil. and gives them an international exposure. That was PYDS. In my second year, the anchoring mantle was taken over by a daughter of a sex worker from the infamous Kamathipura district and a rag picker from Noida. Both of them in their own way have empowered themselves through education. Of course, there have been, people and organizations that have supported them. And in my last edition of Sabera, which was the third edition, we had the daughter of dhobis from Rajasthan. And it's so heartening to see them speak when they speak from the heart and so fluent in English. In fact, that little girl said, my dream was when I was young that I can fluently speak in English, and here I'm standing on this platform amidst all of you and speaking. So these are some conscious decisions from an individual perspective of the domains that we represent that we need to take.
And Suparna, how empowered are the men folk around you? And when we talk about men folk, I emphasize on men because I consider women to be empowered enough. Now it is time to, and since you've done a lot of campaigns on various issues regarding women, like how empowered are the men around you? And men around you doesn't mean just your profession, your family, your relatives, your friends. What is it like?
So Lachmi, for me, I relate to a feminine energy, like Alkaji also pointed out. From a spiritual perspective, it is called Shakti. And Shakti essentially translates into energy that creates. So it's naturally a feminine energy. And when I talk of Shakti, then there has to be a mention of Shiva. So there has to be that Shiva-Shakti balance in all of us. While outwardly, we can look at it as every gender representing everything, but all of this is within, whether you call it through yin and yang or Shiva and Shakti, the concept is that of being balanced within your own self. And unless that balance is achieved inwardly, I don't think outwardly we can do much. And in a perspective of men specifically in my sphere of existence, if, say, for example, for me, inclusivity and balance will include being economically, being socially, being, from an education perspective and psychologically being balanced. So if a man is not emotionally balanced or contributes enough to the emotional quotient, then definitely they are not empowered enough. And that is my perspective.
And do you think that we need to talk about empowerment anymore? Women empowerment anymore?
Absolutely. In 2013, I started an initiative called Women Endangered, and that was more out of trying to channelize my anger and energy after the Nirbhaya Kand in India. All of us were shaken to the core, but I realized that what I end up doing is just armchair activism, wherein I'm pointing fingers at the judiciary, at the police, at the society, and not really looking within myself as to how I have contributed to where the situation is today. And that's how Women Endangered started. And ever since then, I have also started giving menstrual hygiene workshops, both in slums as well as in institutions, as part of that initiative. And believe you me, let's not consider ourselves as the tier 1 cities to be empowered, and that's all there is to empower. There is tier 2, there's tier 3, there's a lot of representation of women that needs to come up. And even in terms of upwardly mobile and educated women like us, there has to be a conscious awareness of the biases that kind of creep inside our thought process as well. I'll give you a simple example of when I was introduced to a menstrual cup, I had no clue of what that is. And when I tried to use it, it almost was like, oh my God, I will insert it inside myself. It's dirty. You can imagine I am not comfortable within my own body, let alone anything else. So I actually was a guinea pig for a couple of years after using it and realizing how important it is for us to know of our own bodies, of what is good for us, and then what is good for the environment. That's how the Let's Talk Period campaign actually started. And we've been, kind of going out with this outreach of sustainable menstruation in various sectors of society.
Reena, over to you. We need to know any discrimination that you've had to go through, not just as a sports person, but being an organ recipient.
Well, at the age of 25, I was very young when I was diagnosed with a heart failure. Uh, I've grown up as a pretty strong young girl, being active in sports and hockey. I was always encouraged to be myself and not discriminated in any way as a girl. But the moment I fell sick, be it at gatherings or even at the hospital, where you're waiting in the waiting area, uh, often, it would be said like, you're so young, you've fallen sick, or who's going to marry you, or you cannot have a baby. And this was the mindset. But for me, it was about surviving and making it. And I believed that I had immense faith that I would make it. And when I started out, after almost 4 years of suffering with heart failure, I went through my first successful heart transplant. And this was way back in 2009 when heart transplants were not even heard of in our country. And I was one of the very few who had a transplant then. And I wanted to create the awareness on organ donation. I wanted to start counseling patients, before and after their transplant, mentally prepare them because I didn't have that. I also, like I said earlier, the cost of transplant is high and post-transplant care itself is expensive. So I needed to raise funds to support needy patients with these life-saving medicines. Being from a sports background, I wanted to promote fitness and wellness. So when I started out after my first transplant and approached a couple of people, working in this field, I'd hear things like, you're a young girl, you're ill yourself. Why do you want to do this? And first try to help yourself. Why are you trying to help others? Also, it was a time where, what a patient can do was not, seen by a lot of people. And that's when, but thankfully I had the support of my family who see me fight day in and day out and make it and go through a transplant. They knew that I could survive anything and do anything I set my mind to. And I approached my doctor, Dr. K.M. Cherian. He's seen me at my worst. And I told him, doctor, I want to start a foundation and I want to do this. And he was so happy because he's seen me struggle and he knows my potential. So he opened doors for me, introduced me to the right people, and helped me set up my foundation. And everything I've learned about organ transplant and heart transplant in particular was through him. So it's more the mindset. It's not about man versus woman. For me, it's been about patient versus society. And that mindset needs to change where, anybody who has the support can reach any potential and is able to do anything they set their mind to. And I had that opportunity and I pursued it. And it's taken like more than a decade, but then here I am doing what I love.
Alkaji, what is it extra mile that you have to go to prove yourself that you're better, or rather you can do it in a better than the men folk in your area of work?
See, I don't like, at this stage in my life, I've stopped even wanting to prove anything, because I do believe, like most of my columnists and colleagues on this panel will agree, my latest book, in fact, is on Shakti, the eternal goddess. After doing Shiva Shakti, I've concentrated on Shakti. That's my latest book. And in that, I have given also my personal journey, that I come from a Shakt background. And in theory, all this is fine. It's also said, Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, bow down to the eternal goddess. All that is fine. From the Pandits to God-fearing people, everybody bows down to the eternal Shakti. But when it comes to real life, I don't even want to say that women are better or worse than men, or men are more how should I say, focused. I'll just say women are different, men are different, women work differently. They have another set of challenges. Men work differently. They don't have so many challenges because their wives take care of everything in their domestic space. But having said that, what I find, in fact, it's a bit infuriating. In fact, it's a bit irritating that when you go out to work as a woman, when it comes to payments, I've often been asked, why do you have to charge? I mean, why do you need to earn money?
Very true.
That's so annoying because I am working in the house, I'm working outside the house. I need to be valued for my time. Okay, in the domestic space, nobody is valued for time, except perhaps in Germany, where women, the Hausfraus, are actually valued for their time. So that's okay. But when I go out and I leave my house and I'm working equally hard and I'm being questioned, why do you need, and then to have to ask for your money. Often you have to keep sending them emails. You have to keep asking. And it's very, very embarrassing because from the kind of creamy layer that I came from, the kind of educated backgrounds that we came from, and very empowered backgrounds, because we as women come from my kind of women, we came from a very different space. Also, I'm much older than my fellow panelists here. We were told never to talk money. It was a dirty word. Saraswati ki upasna karo, Lakshmi apne aap aayegi. So it is very difficult for people like me to talk about money. And believe you me, everybody takes advantage of that. The people, and I'm sorry to use this very racist way of speaking, but white skinned people are always given more money, even as an author. Let me tell you that. Even
Yes,
as a writer. Yeah?
I totally agree with you.
Yeah. So, and who is doing that? We as Indians are doing that. So, who is starting this kind of dialogue? We. Why is a woman not given the same similar advance which her male white colleague gets? Why is she, as a curator, not being made to pay? Why am I always being asked, oh, we don't have a budget for this, but can you do that? Will any person from a more organized white Western world give off their time gratis? Somebody just asked me, called me up again from the West and said, oh, so and so wants you to ride. So when I asked about the honorarium, there was a big silence. And then I said, look, however big the project may be, it may be international, but I'm going to be putting in work. I need to be paid. So then he says, yes, I do understand. My wife is an artist too. So, but I had to have that conversation. It is not nice to have that kind of conversation. So these kind of conversations are happening, and it is really sometimes even a little humiliating that you have to keep asking for your money. Why do you have to be valued for your time? Why does the male not have to ask these questions? So this is my question. Why are
Exactly.
professional women still having to ask for their money, still having to negotiate, still having to say, no, you don't have, can't you reduce? Oh, we don't have the money. Why? That's my question.
Shika, you must have also gone through a similar situation when you had to be asked for money, and then you have to ask for your own work, the time that you've given. What was it like?
So I would agree with all the panelists here, but also, like, it was mentioned that it's not only with women. I think even men go through the same thing. I feel like, there are times in our industry also when we are said that why do you need to charge so much? I mean, you can do it in a lesser price or maybe do it as a favor. So yeah, that's a different approach. But yeah, in the past we were discussing a few minutes ago about men. How important men play a role in our lives to make women powerful. I think that's a very, very important thing that we need to discuss, because if you have a life partner at home who's supporting you with a kind of field. I mean, Lakshmi, in our kind of field, firstly, it's when I started, it was a big taboo. Like, really, you want to do films? like really, like, and I'm from Delhi, like none of my, nobody around in my family has ever been in the feature film business. And when I broke the news and I said, I want to do films, I was literally like, no, you're going to be grounded. You cannot do this, because it's unsafe. The women in the industry are not safe enough. And, you come from a protected background. I had brothers. I'm the only, sister a daughter in my entire, family. And yeah, in that sense, it was challenging. But once you made up your mind, you want to achieve what you need to achieve, you also find men who really support you in that. Then like ever since I've been in Bombay, I've been quite blessed with men who have, supported me, and I am because of them. Our company is called Abundancia Entertainment, where it's actually, the name itself comes from a Roman goddess, Abundancia, and it was formed by Vikram Malhotra, who was worked with Viacom, and he's been in the business for a long time. But he empowers us. He empowers, and like I was saying earlier, that we are. I think 70% of our strength in our company is women, and we have women collaborators who are directors. We are telling stories which are about women. I was just, listening to Reena's story, and it's so inspiring that I would love to make a feature on that. And I think, this is what will empower us. We need to tell these stories. This is what is going to empower and inspire women out there. And that's, I think we are lucky, and we are really, I feel lucky that I'm in the mass media. It's the most powerful tool in influencing and shaping the minds of people in society. And as an organization, we take our responsibility really seriously. So, even though, of course, there are, films like Chapak, where, you did tell a story about a man creating the situation for women. But you also have Shakuntala Devi, where, you actually look at that woman and saying, my God, she didn't listen to anyone. She just went ahead and made her life the way she wanted to. So, I mean, I would never want to play that victim card, of, women being like, subdued. And sure, of course, there have been challenges. And like you asked me earlier, have I gone through things? Of course I have. It's not like I haven't, but it's just that you look at the brighter side and you move ahead, and you take it in your stride and make yourself stronger as a woman, empower the women around you, and take the support of all the lovely men who are with you, and make life happy and bright.
You know what? There is always a notion that the saying that women are women's biggest enemy. We don't support each other. Hence, this confusion starts. How much do you agree with it?
Well, I would, there are, it's like, I would say that we are human beings, there are going to be men and women creating hurdles for you. And there are women at times that, try and create a situation. But like you were saying, do you want to talk, we should talk a little bit about our personal lives as well. I think I'm blessed with a very strong woman in my mother-in-law, who I think supports me and doesn't bring me down. And in my profession, I need to travel a lot. I need to be out of the house. Pretty much, I work 18 hours a day. But if it wasn't for a support like a woman, like her, it would have been so tough. And, there are women. I mean, I have friends. I know people who, system at home is not so strong and they struggle. So there are 100% situation, and they always are telling me that you're so lucky. But there are. I mean, I would not disagree with you at all.
What about you, Suparna, on this? How do women support each other in your profession, in your work, and around you? Being a media professional, I'm asking you, Suparna.
So, Lachmi, I essentially feel that women somehow tend to not ask for help. And in all my interactions that I've had with very senior corporate professionals, they have said that we've been able to get by only through a support system, especially when you're also raising a family along with managing your professional lives. So it's like, it takes a village to raise a child, and especially so when the woman is also working outside the home as well as inside. So it needs that kind of support from everybody, and that's what my experience is. And, in terms of the kind of hurdles that one faces, I remember my daughter, of course, she's now 22 years old. And she recently mentioned to me, she said, Mom, you've always been because I'm a single mother. So she says, you've always been my mother as well as my father. It's time now you just be my mother. You raised me, you've educated me, I'm going out, and she's now doing her graduation project. She says, now you've raised me into a full-fledged, beautiful human being. Now it's time you just be my mother and relax. Don't be my father anymore. So, and challenges, of course, there. I remember when I was in radio and with a small daughter at home, for me, my priority was, after finishing my tasks, I need to get back home to my daughter, right? Because I would want that 1 hour to play with her in the park. And also my parents were full on supporting me. My mother has been there like a solid rock of Gibraltar, literally, for me. And the reason why I could do or achieve or go many further miles in my career and personal life is primarily because she was there. She looked after my child as her own child, and I could never thank her enough for it. I do, but the fact is I could never achieve as much if she wasn't there. So coming back to that anecdote wherein I wanted to go back and spend time with my daughter. She was about 6 years old at that point in time, and the favorite part of the day was going out to the park. And it seemed that it wasn't really looked upon in a very positive light in the professional scheme of things, because for the boys or the men, it was more like, okay, where are we going to go pubbing tonight, or maybe catching a beer? Or it was almost like a backslapping boys club wherein the women, and there was another single woman, were typecast or stereotyped into कि ये तो 6 बजे घर चले जाएंगे अपने, या why are they not committed to the work as much? Why can't they stay late nights till 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock? It's not like you shy away from working late, but if you can work smart and finish all your work in the designated time, why do you need to extend that to a 7 o'clock or an 8 o'clock and then go out for a meal or a drink or something? It's not like I did not do that, because it's essential for a woman to also let her hair down and interact with friends and network, and all of this normally happens over the evenings. But it's not on a daily basis, which is a priority. The priority definitely lies in also nurturing the family.
So there's a balance that you all need to maintain. And you've said it very nicely. When work finishes, you want to go back to your child, but sometimes there are hiccups in the organization and questions being asked that why can't you come home, come for a drink with your colleagues? Shikha, do you face similar situations as well?
Well, yeah, I mean, absolutely we do. But it's again your priority, right? Like depending on, sure, I mean, you would definitely want to go out for a drink with your colleagues. And there are times, it can't be every day, but of course there has, like, Suparna said it beautifully, that there has to be a balance. So while I would like to, go out with my friends, but I have a 10-year-old at home who starts calling me at 7:30 every evening and like, what time are you coming? What time are you coming? And every day before I leave, he would ask me what time. So now I tell him, I'm not going to give you a time, because, you're going to start calling me at that time. And maybe I will not be able to make it, but like, again, coming back to the point that we were making, that, I have a boy, okay, and it's how I raise him. Tomorrow is going to be the future of the women.
Exactly.
So I think today, if I tell him to respect women, he sees the kind of work we are doing, and we are so focused on women-led stories. And he asked me, you make films only with these women, and why is it like that? Because so it is a conscious effort that we are making to tell these beautiful, sensitive, inspirational, aspirational stories, and where I want my son to look at them and and respect each woman when he grows up. And the first thing I teach him, even now, like, you need to take care of every single girl in your class. You don't have to be a brother, you don't have to be, you can just be a friend, but I spoke to him about, periods when he was, I think last year, when he was barely 8 or something. And he didn't need to know, but I thought it was important for him to know, because tomorrow, if his friend, in the class is going through something and he sees a stain, he will walk up to her and say, I can help, and that'll be the day when I'll be the most proud, of him. So I think it's how you raise your child, and it takes a village for a child to grow, and we need to in fact keep that intact, and we need to protect our children and other people's children, and only when our men will learn, our girls will be all right.
Alka ji, your take on this, like how we should raise our sons or our young boys in our family for a better tomorrow?
Now, the question you've asked me is a very, very difficult question for me, because I come from a family where there were no brothers. We were 4 sisters. And I had a very strong, powerful, enlightened, very well educated mother who was a poet and a musician. And my grandfather was a scholar, my maternal grandfather, of Pali, and a great. I also am a mother of a single child, a daughter. So you see, for me, I didn't know that women couldn't be empowered. I didn't know how do you bring up boys. It's only when I got married and I saw certain differences happening, and my very feminist husband, who came from a family of brothers and sisters, he had 4 sisters in there, 2 brothers. So where you have lots of sisters, you also become more sensitive to women. You also see how your sisters are being, treated, and how things are happening for them. So one day he told me in a very joking way that, if you had a brother and you had a bhabi, then you would know. So I kind of took heed of what he said, and I realized that however enlightened he is, there is the thing that he's a boy and the others are girls. So this is very, very tough a question. I would just say that it is important to make the boy aware that there is a woman who may be physically not that strong, but emotionally she's very powerful. There are 2 beings, like the positive and the negative, the yin, the yang, the purush, the prakriti, all that. But 2 different people have to respect each other. The most important thing for me in any relationship is first respect, 2 empathy, 3 kindness. So if you imbue your son or daughter both equally with that, that is the way to bring up an offspring. Because I am telling you, the young girls today are extremely conscious of their rights. And unfortunately, what comes from the West is becoming deeply aggressive here. So mutual respect, mutual kindness, empathy, if you inscribe that in any offspring, that's the best. I wouldn't say have a different parameter for boys, have a different parameter for girls, because if you do that, you're already establishing the difference. The idea is that you respect each other in spite of the difference, because we are different. A woman is a woman and a man is a man. Our DNAs are different. Our ways, the way we are nurtured are different. Our professions sometimes are different. But even in your professional space, the most important thing is respect, empathy, kindness. These are the 3 qualities I live and swear by.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, all of you, for your enlightening talk. And it was great having you for the webinar. And we take home that empathy, respect, we should do it to each other irrespective of gender. Thank you.
Thanks, Lachmi.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.